Yeah.
Thank you very much. Got cut off, and perhaps is part of the shenaniganism of the government, because that's exactly how they have been behaving in the electoral process. Um, Sir, I want to first of all thank you very much for accommodating us and for affording us the opportunity of being heard. I want to thank Mr. former Prime Minister Golding and, of course, the General Secretary for the presentations made. And I want to go straight into answering the Minister and the learned Attorney General of Guyana. The elections in Guyana were observed by CARICOM, by the Carter Center, by Commonwealth, by a host of local organizations here, and of course by the OAS team. And they all certified elections to be free and fair. The problem arose with the tabulation of the Region 4 results. And this tabulation did not take place in secrecy, but was done openly and observed by all the observers. And everyone saw in broad daylight that the officer, the relevant returning officer, did not comply with the law in the tabulation of the results by using the statements of poll, which would have been a summary of the results counted at the night of poll, but instead use a spreadsheet. No one knows where that spreadsheet came from, but that spreadsheet contained fictitious figures and bore no resemblance to the actual ballots cast. And that was the spreadsheet that was used to declare the Region 4 results. When the numbers were compared with the actual statements of poll, one found that in that tabulation, the returning officer fraudulently gifted over 23,000 votes to the APNU AFC, which they did not get at the poll. And in so doing, he actually invented over 17,000 votes that were not even cast at the elections. And is as a result of that, in the presence of everyone, in the presence of all the ambassadors, all the observers, all the international observers, as a result of that, we were forced to go to the court. And I heard Mr. Williams say that that was never done before. But when we went to the court, the Chief Justice followed a precedent of a case filed by the very Mr. Basil Williams in 1997, when they tried in 1997 to stop President Janet Jagan from being sworn in. And they went to the court during that time, and it is that precedent that the learned Chief Justice used as the basis to entertain our claim. And what the Chief Justice did was to direct the returning officer to go back and use the statements of poll as the basis for the declaration and tabulation of the results. The returning officer refused to comply with the directions of the Chief Justice and again declared wrong results. And it was then that an agreement was arrived at between President David Granger and leader of the opposition, Bharat Jagdeo, brokered by CARICOM, presided over by Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados. And under that agreement, there was to be a national recount of all the ballots cast, so as to deal with that controversy that erupted. Mr. Granger went into that agreement, and immediately after that, while he is hiding in the background and committing himself to the world and to CARICOM to do this recount, he began to use his minions to dismantle that very agreement that he entered into. So he has 3 commissioners at the GCOM, and they refuse. Although GCOM itself agreed to carry out the recount, the 3 commissioners never gave their accord to that decision. Instead, they conspired with one of their candidates, and they went to the court to stop the recount from taking place. That case went to the High Court, they lost. They appealed to the Court of Appeal of Guyana, and the Court of Appeal ruled that the GCOM has the power to do that recount, and the Court of Appeal essentially endorsed that recount to take place. So they were forced to go to the recount, and they participated in the recount. President Granger, again, as he usually does, expresses his platitudes and made sanctimonious declarations to be bound by this national recount exercise. They participated fully, and when they realized that they were losing the recount, they started to fabricate these allegations of dead and migrant people voting. Importantly, this recount was observed by CARICOM, a CARICOM team. They blocked the Carter team from observing the recount, using the COVID pandemic as the basis. We asked for this recount to be live streamed on national television. They objected. We eventually got the recount to be streamed on the radio. And they also wanted to ban cell phones from being used in the recount process. We had to fight to get that done. Anyhow, the recount was concluded, and all the parties participated. And CARICOM produced a report at the end. And in that report, CARICOM certified the recount to have been credible and transparent. This is, let me quote from the CARICOM report quickly. They said, and I quote, "We are of the unshakable belief that the people of Guyana expressed their will at the ballots, and the results are completely acceptable." They said also that the recounting of the votes were conducted with as much precision as possible, and with absolutely no hint of bias on the part of GCOM station workers. Their impartiality with respect to the vote recount was outstanding. And of course, at your own time, you can look at that report. Now, that recount also was observed by the diplomatic missions here, by the international community, and all of them, and I have a long list of them, including the OAS, the Commonwealth, the CARICOM, the ABC countries, ABC and E countries, the United Nations, every important person and organization in the hemisphere that had any connection with this recount process and this electoral process made public calls for the recount results to be used. All of them. But what happened is that they managed to get the APNU AFC, managed to infiltrate the staff at the secretariat and started to undermine the recount process from the beginning. And they got the chief elections officer, although he supervised the recount process from the beginning. When time came for the results of the recount to be enclosed in a report to be prepared by him and given to the commission, he gave a wrong report, a fraudulent report, which did not reflect the recount results. Although he's subject to the commission, as was made clear, he's a servant of the commission, they went to the court again in their efforts to try to get a court to assist them in completing this fraudulent design. They went to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal ruled that votes in the Constitution meant valid votes. And Mr. Chief Elections Officer took it upon himself that he has a power, given that interpretation of the court, to determine what is valid and invalid votes. And in so doing, he invalidated over 115,000 votes and prepared a report that once again gifted APNU AFC electoral victory. The commission refused to accept that.
With all due respect, your 10 minutes have elapsed. Please reach your conclusion now. Thank you.
This time we got to make a conclusion.
Sorry. Yes. So then we appealed that decision to the Caribbean Court of Justice. Under the Caribbean Court of Justice, the court examined the recount process and certified it to be valid and legal. They looked at the recount order and certified that recount order to be legal and valid. And the CCJ also ruled that the decision of the results must be the basis for the declaration. And as GCOM was about to instruct the CEO again to use those reports, use the results from the recount process, they have gone again to the court using one of their surrogates. And the court again has ruled that the recount was valid, that the order under which the recount was done was valid, and also that the recount results must be used as the basis for the declaration of the results. Now they are appealing that decision to the Guyana Court of Appeal.
Very well. Thank you very much, Mr. Nandlall. Thank you for this presentation. And in accordance with our order of business, I now give the floor to Mr. Mark Phillips. You have the floor, Mr. Candidate for Prime Minister.
Mr. Chairman, Your Excellency Ambassador Cordero, Secretary General Louis Almagro, Excellencies, Ambassadors from all countries of the OAS, Minister Karen Cummins, Foreign Minister of Guyana, and Minister of Legal Affairs and Attorney General of Guyana, Mr. Basil Williams. Thank you for this opportunity to speak at this forum. First of all, let me take this opportunity to commend Prime Minister Golding for his most accurate report on the electoral impasse and the political situation up to date in Guyana. As you are aware from all the presenters before, we have a situation in Guyana today where the APNU AFC, the party in government, is seeking to use Mr. Clement Mingo's fraudulent declaration in order to get them to be accepted as the winners of the election. A declaration which was condemned by the international community. Mr. Chairman, we are 18 months without a functioning parliament in Guyana. We have a situation where the government of Guyana is making vile statements against leaders of CARICOM and other leaders of regional and hemispheric organizations who are all recommending that the recount results be used to declare the election results in Guyana. Mr. Chairman, the People's Progressive Party, the opposition party in Guyana, have won a peaceful and orderly elections that were held on March the 2nd. Mr. Chairman, the people of Guyana is still, after 140 days, is awaiting the peaceful transition of power from the government of the APNU-AFC to the PPPC-led government by Dr. Irfan Ali, our president-elect. As you heard before, Mr. Chairman, the recount results are completely acceptable. The actual count of the vote was indeed transparent, and none other than the President of Guyana, President David Granger, is on record stating that CARICOM is the most legitimate interlocutor on the situation in Guyana. Mr. Chairman, I call on the APNU-AFC government not to just attend this forum, but to respect the will of the people of Guyana, respect the rule of law in Guyana, and respect the democratic norms and values of the Organization of American States, and concede that they have lost the elections in Guyana. Mr. Chairman, notwithstanding the declaration which we all await, I wish to state that the declaration is just a formality because the results of the recount is a public document for the entire world to see and to note that the PPPC, the People's Progressive Party Civic, has won those elections after 460,000 valid votes were allotted, in the sense that 233,000 of those valid votes were won by the PPPC, 217,000 of those votes by the APNU-AFC, and the remaining 9,000 votes by the smaller parties. The results of the recount will not change. The declaration is just a matter of formality. The PPPC, that is the People's Progressive Party, of which I'm the Prime Minister candidate, has won these elections, and it's about time that the APNU-AFC respect the origin of the international community, respect the origin of CARICOM, and allow the People's Progressive Party Civic to transition peacefully into the formation of the government of Guyana. Your Excellency, Ambassador Cordero, thank you for your opportunity given to me today to speak at this forum.